Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to tutoring number 3. My name is teacher Dini Amor. So let's start. Today we're going to talk about two important topics. In this case, comparatives and superlatives is the first topic that we're going to discuss. In this case, remember that we're going to work with adjectives. So let's say, let's pretend that we are going to conjugate the adjectives, we're going to modify them. So we create comparatives or we have superlative. Remember that in the case of comparative, we have equality comparatives, which means that they have the same level. Okay, I can say, I don't know, um, my house is as small as Julieta's house, for example. And in the case of inequality, one of the objects is going to have a higher, a better, for example, characteristic than the other object. Okay. In that case, we need to pay attention to the type of adjective that we have. Remember that we're going to talk about short and long adjectives. In the case of um, comparative, the rule says that we need to use the comparative adjective plus than when we compare two objects. We have basic rules when we talk about small adjectives. Um, Basically, we talk about the ones with one syllable. For example, cold. In that case, we need to add er at the end. Cold becomes colder. High becomes higher. We have an exception in this case when we talk about one syllable because we can include two syllable adjectives, but they need to have a final Y. Okay, in this case, for example, happy or easy. And in the case of long adjectives, two or more syllables, we're going to use more. Okay, in the case of difficult, it becomes more difficult. Dangerous, more dangerous. Remember that we have some irregular comparatives in the case of, for example, good, that becomes better, and bad, that becomes worse. In this case, I would like to include as well some adjectives that they have a final double consonant. For example, hot, that we need a double T, becomes hotter. Big, that we need a double G, that becomes bigger. So in this case, we have some other comparatives that we can include in the irregular category. For example, well, we have good that becomes better, bad, worse, but also we have little that becomes less, far that becomes further or farther. In this case, they are the same, but um, further would be American, farther is British. As well, we have well, that becomes better, many more, and much more. And in the case of the adjectives with double consonant, we have big, fat, we need a double T, red, we need a double D, sad, we need a double D as well, and thin, we need a double N. So let's continue. In this case, I have a little activity. You are going to help me to complete the sentences using the correct adjective forms. Since this is a little tutoring, you can pause the video. You can take a couple of minutes for you to complete the sentences. Now that we had a little time to analyze the sentences, here you have the answers. For example, in number 1, Tim is taller than Sky. Sky, number 2, Sky is better at basketball than Tim. Number 3, Tim is faster than Sky. Number 4, Sky is more popular than Teeny. And number 5, Sky's feet are bigger than Teeny's feet. Now we have a little reflection. In this case, a kind of a speaking activity. I would like you to take your time to think about two different places or cities, for example, sports or free time activities, famous people, if you want, places in your town, and try to create a couple of sentences comparing those elements. As I mentioned, you can pause the video, take a couple of minutes for you to analyze, for you to create your comparative sentences. Another aspect that we need to review, in this case related to comparatives, but also we're going to talk about superlatives. Remember that we use superlatives to compare, let's say, one thing with all the other things in a group. One person with all the other people in a group. For example, the elephant is the heaviest animal. Okay, I don't know, in Africa, in the world. Okay, so we need to talk about some other, elements in a group. Sharks are the biggest fish in the world. In this case, for example, we have in the world. Remember that when we create superlatives, we need to use article the before the superlative, and we need the ending, in this case, depending on if we have one syllable or two or more syllable adjectives. In the case of short adjectives with that one syllable, we need est at the end. So slow becomes the slowest, short, the shortest. When we have adjectives with a final y, we need to change y into I, and we include est. So teeny becomes the teeniest, happy becomes the happiest. In the case of two or more syllable adjectives, remember, we need to include the most at the beginning. The most difficult or the most dangerous. There are a little exception or a little rule that we need to take into account as well, that in the case of superlatives, they can have double consonants as well. So big, we can include it within the rule, but we need a double G. Big becomes the biggest, hot, the hottest. And as well, we have some irregular adjectives. For example, good becomes the best, and bad becomes the worst. As well, we have a little exercise. You can take a couple of minutes and try to complete the sentences using the superlative forms. Now that you had some time to analyze, there you have the answers. For example, in number one, Al is the shortest. Obviously, we're talking about a picture in a group, for example. Two, Ed is the thinnest. Number three, Al is wearing the most colorful clothes. Number four, Ed is the tallest. Number five, Joe is the smartest. Sorry. In this case, we have a little exercise, but we are combining a comparative and superlative sentences. So you need to analyze and decide which is the correct option. Take a couple of minutes, pause the video, and try to complete the sentences. Okay, now that you had some time to review, there you have the answers. In number one, my house is bigger than yours. In this case, we're comparing two houses, for example, two objects. Number 2, this flower is more beautiful than that one. Again, we're talking about two flowers, but we're using beautiful, which is a long adjective. We need to use more. Number 3, this is the best book I have ever read. From all the books in my life, this is the best. Number 4, non-smokers usually live longer than smokers. Okay, we are talking about two types of people in this case. Number 5, which is the most dangerous animal in the world? Okay, again, in this case, we're talking about a group in the world. Number 6, a holiday by the sea is better than a holiday in the mountains. We're talking about two holiday experiences. Number 7, it is strange, but often a Coke is more expensive than a beer. We talk about two drinks in this case, a Coke and a beer. Number 8, who is the richest woman on earth? In this case, we talk about one person, but the richest woman in a group, in this case, on earth. Number 9, the weather this summer is even worse than last summer. We talk about two types of summer from different years. And the last one, he was the most intelligent thief of all. In this case, we have of all, talking about, a group of thieves. I hope you have been doing well in this topic. Remember, important to analyze if we talk about two objects, one object, okay, if we talk about two characteristics or just one with the highest characteristic in a group. In some cases, I consider correction exercises help us to analyze the mistake, but also to understand the correct structure, and so we can avoid mistakes in the future. There you have some sentences, and they have a mistake in the use of comparatives or superlatives. In this case, you are going to take a couple of minutes, you are going to analyze the mistakes, and try to tell us the correction. Now you can pause the video, take your time, and then we check. Okay. So, as you can see, for example, in number 1, the correction will be the easiest. Okay. So, remember, when we have a superlative, we need to use the, and in this case, it's a short adjective. We need est at the end. In the case of number 2, the correct answer will be stronger and larger. When we have two adjectives, remember, we need to pay attention if they are short or long adjectives, and we modify or we apply the correct modification. In this case, it would be incorrect to say more strong. Okay, we say stronger and larger. In the case of number 3, well, in this case, that one was correct. We can say the most commonly. In this case, we talk about the most commonly used as cooking food fuel. In the case of number 4, that one was incorrect. We cannot say just a low temperature than, will be lower temperature than. Number 5, that one was correct. We have the most important documents, is okay. In the case of number 6, that one was incorrect. We cannot say more heavier, it will be wrong. So the correction will be just heavier. Then we have number 7, that one was correct. More eloquently is okay. In the case of number 8, that one is incorrect. When we have a superlative, remember that we use the must in the case of long adjectives. So the most destructive. Number 9 is incorrect as well. In this case, the correct superlative, in this case, it will be the least. Number 10 is incorrect as well. Remember, in this case, the correct comparison will be worse than. Number 6, that one is okay. We can say the most basic. In the case of number 12, okay, remember that bitter, okay, per se is just a word. And to create the comparative, we use more because it has two syllables. More bitter taste than. Number 13, that one is incorrect. When we talk about, for example, one of the largest and best known natural history museums, number 14, Baltimore has one of the world's most finest, will be incorrect, the finest without most. And in the case of number 15, that one will be correct. We can say so. Again, you can take a couple of minutes to reflect, to think about your country or a country that you know. Maybe you can take notes or make a little description in your mind describing the most hottest month or the best place to visit or the oldest city or the cheapest way to travel. So you can take those elements to reflect and to make a description about your country or a country that you know. Now we're going to take into our second topic. We're going to talk about indirect questions. When we talk about indirect questions, it's because we want to ask, let's say, in a more polite way. Okay? So, we have the first example. How has he managed to get in shape so quickly? That would be a direct question, a normal question that we have every day. But the indirect question can be, for example, do you have any idea how he has managed to get in shape so quickly? In this case, we need to pay attention to two, let's say, changes. We need to have an introductory phrase. Do you have any idea? Can you tell me? Do you know? And we need to modify the order of the question. Okay? Let's analyze. Okay? In the case of the indirect question, we need to keep the word order the same as in a positive sentence. Okay? One strategy that you can do is to imagine how to answer the question. Sorry, because in this case the camera is in the indirect question example, but for example we have the direct question. What is he doing? Do you know what he is doing? Okay. If you want to check if it is okay, you can answer. He is doing exercise. He is running a marathon. He is describing a process. Okay? So in that case, if you answer and if it makes sense, you have the indirect question in the correct order. Remember that when we have auxiliaries, for example, do, or in the case of fast, in those cases, we omit the auxiliary or we conjugate the verb. In this case, what do you want? Okay, well, in this case, we need to eliminate. Why? Because when we transform and you tell me what you want, in which case the direct question, what does he want? what does he want? In that case, we need to transform the verb. And you tell me what he wants. We need a final S in the verb. If we change into past, what did you want? We need to transform the verb in past. And you tell me what you wanted, for example. And as a final rule, when we have yes or no questions, we need to keep the word order the same, and we need to include if. Okay, we use if or whether. Have you seen my dog? Could you tell me if you have seen my dog? You can say if or whether. Can you tell me whether you have seen my dog? In this case, I have a couple of sentences that, well, they are direct questions, and you're going to help me to transform into indirect questions. Don't worry about the introductory phrase. In this case, you can use the same for all the sentences, for all the questions. Again, pause the video, and then we will check. Okay, here, as you can see, I start all the questions with can you tell me? But what changes is the structure of the second part. Can you tell me where the nearest bank is? Can you tell me if they will come? Can you tell me when the last train on Saturday night is? Can you tell me if you are coming? Can you tell me how much the tickets cost? Can you tell me what time the film starts? Okay, so this is about the film, surrounding. Can you tell me what else the teachers said about me in class? Can you tell me where I can find John? And can you tell me if anybody saw you? Okay guys, well, basically that will be it for today. During classes, we answer a couple of questions. Sorry because I recorded the class again because during the session we were having problems with the audio, so I wanted to avoid those mistakes. I hope the topic is clearer now, and remember that if you have any doubt, any question, you can always send me a mail or write me in the Aprende campus. Thank you and have a good week.